Your microservice crashes every 12 hours with no pattern. The culprit? A single line in your Dockerfile, FastAPI dev instead of FastAPI run. Let's break down FastAPI CLI, dev, run, and deploy, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. FastAPI CLI is the official command line tool that wraps Unicorn with sensible defaults. For development, it enables auto-reload and debug mode with a single worker. For production, it disables reload, binds to all interfaces, and supports multiple workers with graceful shutdown. Before the CLI, every project had a run, PI with environment checks and reload flags. The CLI eliminates that. It knows that FastAPI dev means reload on, debug on, single worker. FastAPI run means reload off, multiple workers, production logging. No more accidental reload in prod. Let's start with a basic FastAPI app. Create a file called main, PI with a simple root. Then run FastAPI dev main, PI to start the dev server. The CLI will auto-reload whenever you change any PI file. Here's a minimal FastAPI app. Define your app instance and a root endpoint. Save this as main, PI. The dev command gives you auto-reload on any PI file change, debug mode with full tracebacks and responses, and a single worker. The host is bound to 127001 by default for safety. Here are common dev command variations. You can specify host and port and exclude directories from reload to reduce watcher overhead. For production, use FastAPI run. It gives you multiple workers, log-level info, host bound to 0000, and graceful shutdown. Workers finish current requests before dying when you send SIGTERM. Here are production command examples. Set workers based on memory, not CPU cores. For I/O-bound apps, use 2 asterisk CPU cores plus 1 as a starting point. FastAPI CLI automatically loads env files from the current directory. Shell environment variables take precedence, which is correct for Docker or CI overrides. Use env file for custom paths. Here's a sample env file. The CLI loads it automatically when you run from the project root. For custom paths, use the env file option. The FastAPI new command generates a project skeleton with a proper structure: main, PI, routers, models, schemas, and a Dockerfile. It's great for new microservices, but might be overkill for monoliths. Run FastAPI new my project to create a new project. It generates a standard structure with placeholders. After scaffolding, run pip freeze requirements.txt to lock versions. For Docker deployment, use FastAPI run in the CMD. Set workers based on available memory. Never use FastAPI dev in Docker files. It's only for local development. Here's a production Dockerfile. It uses FastAPI run with 4 workers. Adjust the worker count based on your container's memory. For Kubernetes, scale horizontally instead of using many workers per pod. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The Dockerfile CMD was FastAPI dev main, PI host 0000 port 80. The dev command enables auto-reload, which starts a file watcher that leaks file descriptors over time. Eventually, the container hits its file descriptor limit and crashes. The team assumed the deployment was correct because health checks passed on startup. The Dockerfile used FastAPI dev, which enables auto-reload and debug mode, causing file descriptor leak from the watcher until OOM. The fix changes to FastAPI run with proper workers. The fix was simple: change the Dockerfile CMD to FastAPI run main, PI. Additionally, add a CI check that greps the Dockerfile for FastAPI dev and fails the build. A pre-commit hook can catch it even earlier. FastAPI run is the production command. It enables proper worker management, no reload overhead, and production-grade defaults. The reload watcher watches the entire directory tree. If you have a node modules or giant data folder, it can exhaust Inotify watches and crash the dev server. Use reload dir to limit the scope. Setting too many workers on a memory-constrained container can cause OOM kills. Each worker consumes ~100-200 MB baseline. On a 512 MB container, 8 workers will exceed memory quickly. Reduce workers or increase memory. This is the exact mistake from the incident. Using FastAPI dev in a Dockerfile causes auto-reload to run in production, leaking file descriptors and eventually crashing. Always use FastAPI run for production. If you rename env.local, the CLI won't load it. The default file must be named exactly env. Use env.file for any other name. The generated requirements.txt uses unpinned versions like FastAPI > 0, 100, 0. This will break your build when a major version drops. Always pin versions with pip freeze requirements.txt after scaffolding. The article mentions that the CLI auto-detects main, pi with app, but if your file is named differently, e.g., server, pi, or your variable is API, you must specify it explicitly. Here's how to run with a custom module and variable name. FastAPI CLI requires Python 3.8 or later. If you're on an older Python version, e.g., 3.7, the CLI will not be available. Upgrade your Python runtime or use Unicorn directly as a fallback. The article mentions graceful shutdown, but doesn't show how to customize the timeout for in-flight requests. Use timeout keep alive to control how long workers wait before being killed. This is crucial for long-running requests. Here are common debugging commands. Use lsofI 8000 to find what's using a port. Increase file descriptor limit with ulimit n before starting the CLI. Run with log-level debug for verbose output. Let's run through some common interview questions. How does CLI handle graceful shutdown? Sends SIGTRM to workers, waits for in-flight requests up to timeout keep alive, then exits. When to choose FastAPI run over raw Unicorn. For sensible defaults, raw Unicorn for custom options like SSL or concurrency limits. What happens with FastAPI dev workers for? CLI ignores the flag and runs a single worker. Dev mode forces one worker. And a few frequently asked questions. Difference between FastAPI dev and FastAPI run? Dev, auto-reload localhost debug single worker. Run, no reload 0000 info log multiple workers. How to set number of workers? Use workers with FastAPI run. Default is 1. Dev mode ignores the flag. Can I use a custom env file? Yes, with env file option. Default loads env from current directory. To recap, use FastAPI dev for local development with hot reload, never in production. Use FastAPI run for production with appropriate worker counts. The CLI loads env automatically. When you need advanced Unicorn options, skip the CLI and use raw Unicorn. Ready to go deeper? Up next, FastAPI OpenAPI customization, then FastAPI lifespan events, then FastAPI streaming responses and file responses. Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.